Hello, and welcome to the Spokane County Spotlight. I'm Commissioner Mary Kuney, and my guest today is Jason Clark, President and CEO of Second Harvest. Our focus today is about the work being done in our community to address food security. As we settle into November, a month often defined by food, I couldn't think of a better topic and a better guest to speak on the subject. Jason, welcome to the program today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to visit.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. And as we get started, can you tell me, for the benefit of our audience, a little bit about yourself and your background?
Oh, sure. Well, I've had the pleasure of living in Spokane since 2002 when I came out and after I was selected to lead Second Harvest. So it was an amazing opportunity to come to a really wonderful part of the world and to do some really good work with a great organization. And before that, I worked at a food bank in my hometown of St. Joseph, Missouri, and I also had gone to college there and started out as a volunteer at my food bank. So here I am 27 years later still doing this, and it's I feel like a very lucky human being to be a part of it.
Wow, so it was definitely a passion of yours from the get-go.
It turned out to be the case. I actually was a history and philosophy major and thought I was going to get a PhD and teach or something like that, and completely changed gears and ended up running a nonprofit at the age of 24 years old, and went and got a master's in business instead. And oh my gosh, I have no regrets. It's been just such a wonderful experience.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm very excited to hear that. So now that we know a little bit about you, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Second Harvest and, for those that aren't familiar with what you do with your organization?
One of the things, I love sharing the story of Kay Porta, our founder. And Kay is just a really wonderful, wonderful human being. Unfortunately, she passed away earlier this year in her mid-90s.
Wow.
We still saw her from time to time. And when Kay worked for the Department of Social Services, she noticed a lot of families were coming in and they were dealing with hunger issues. And somehow she had learned about the world's first food bank in Phoenix, Arizona, which started in 1967. And in 1971, the Spokane Food Bank was born in downtown Spokane. They had about 1,000 square feet of space and a little retail area. And the quote in the paper was, "This is all the space we'll ever need." So it was a lot of fun when many years later, Kay saw our 80,000 square foot warehouse. We have over 140,000 square feet of warehouse now. And, but just so incredible to see a small group of volunteers bootstrap that and create something that's had so much impact in the region for decades now. And Second Harvest went from serving one county in those days to serving 26. So we serve all of eastern Washington and North Idaho now. And we have almost 250 neighborhood partners, so food pantries, food banks, meal programs that rely on our organization for a lot of their food needs.
And are you strictly in Spokane County, or your borders extend beyond Spokane County?
We go beyond Spokane County, so those 26 counties, we have partners throughout the region who can accept food from our warehouses, and we have 2 warehouses here in Spokane, and we have 1 in the Tri-Cities.
Okay, interesting, thank you. So can you describe for us what the need for services in Spokane County look like currently?
It has changed a lot, and some of the numbers are pretty staggering. Before the pandemic, our projection on the number of food insecure people in Spokane County was around 64,000 people. That number is now over 90,000 people, and our experience is bearing that out. We've been doing a lot of what we call our mobile market distributions, and that's where we load up a truck with food. Maybe it has up to 9,000 to 12,000 pounds of food on it, a lot of perishable and fresh foods. And we can serve about 200 families with one of those trucks. And we've been, in 2019, we did about 105 of those distributions, which we were very proud of. This year, we are on track to do more than 400 of those distributions. Wow. And from serving 16,000 people to over 75,000 people just with our mobile market program. So huge need and growth there. And for many of the families that have been coming to these mobile distributions, we're learning that around 40% of them have never been to a food bank before. So that tells us there's new and unique need for a lot of families in the community. And those trucks are always coming back empty, which is another thing that's, we're turning cars away at most of these events.
Interesting. And I see that you're partnering, because I've seen on Instagram or Facebook, where school districts are promoting, I'm in West Valley School District, and so they're promoting that these events are happening. So it's great to see that that's, as a partnership with you and the community to do these events. So thank you.
Partnership is the way we do all of our work, and whether it's with a school or a neighborhood pantry, we have so many great organizations in Spokane that we work with, and we wouldn't be able to do this work without them.
No, so then, COVID-19 hits, and so how has that affected your internal operations? Because that has had a major effect.
Well, it's almost hard to describe. I have to try to roll the mental clock back to January and imagine what Second Harvest looked like then. And we had a huge focus on nutrition education. Our teaching kitchen was open. We do cooking demonstrations and samplings at all of our distribution events, trying to help our pantries adapt to do more fresh produce and perishables. And we were distributing roughly 2 million pounds of food a month. Well, we go into the pandemic and almost every part of what we do had to change. Everything from how we got our food. All of a sudden I don't know if we probably all still remember, things were running out in grocery stores. The food supply chain was very disrupted. Even though we needed a lot more food, in some cases we couldn't even buy it. And we had to do a lot of interesting things to sort bulk food and do things we'd never done before. We've doubled the number of drivers we've had. We doubled the number of trucks we have. We've gone from 2 million pounds of food a month to up to 6 million pounds in some months. So it's just really been staggering how that has affected what we do. But it's what we needed to do. It's what the community supported us in doing. The National Guard was called up, and the National Guard has been a huge help. And at points we've had up to 140 National Guard in our buildings, which is good because it also disrupted our volunteer program.
Yes, because of the age of your volunteers, they were in an at-risk population, and trying to figure that out. So I came down and toured when the National Guard was there, and it was very interesting to see, how you had to change and adjust from when I was there before for one of the cooking classes. So, so it's been interesting, and coming down and touring and seeing, how you guys made those transitions and changes, and did it in a manner that was, safe, keeping everybody safe, but still doing your mission.
Oh, yeah, it's been interesting, and it's so wonderful that, I think we have some of the best volunteers in the world, and so many of them have been very understanding, have continued to be really committed, but we've done our best to keep people safe, adjust our practices so that we maintain good distance while they're working, but it has had an impact. It's been more challenging to get all that work done, so the Guard has been a real help.
Yeah, no. So I understand the pandemic has also changed the sources of the food that you obtain. Is that correct? And are there more changes to come with regard to Second Harvest in procuring food?
Yeah, before COVID, about 90% of our food came from private donors. And so these were folks like just a huge range. It could be a farmer who grows potatoes, or tree fruit folks, apples, pears. We had shifted to where almost 50% of our inventory was fresh produce. And we're near the Columbia Basin, we serve the Columbia Basin, so all these amazing farmers and growers have gotten to where they donate huge amounts of food to us. And so we've been slowly converting our system to handle all this stuff that needs refrigeration and needs to be handled quickly. And we also have grocery stores. We have 175 grocery stores in a program called Grocery Rescue that generates almost 50% of our food during normal times. Well, a lot of things happened when COVID hit. All of a sudden, we needed shelf-stable food for safe drive-through distributions because neighborhood pantries didn't have as many volunteers, and they didn't have enough refrigeration space to handle perishable food. So we had to have shelf-stable food. So we rapidly had to convert our system from going 90% all donated, a lot of perishable, to now where over 50% of our food are canned goods, which we have not had for many, many years.
Right.
And it's, we have space constraints, and it's, overloaded our fleet, and all sorts of interesting challenges, along with just trying to source and supply all of that needed food. And now we also have a much larger percentage of food coming from the federal government, which was also a thing that changed pretty dramatically. Almost 40% of our food is coming from USDA now.
And so then can you tell us about any current campaigns that you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure, there are a couple of things, and a very important one is coming up. So Tom's Turkey Drive is about to happen here in Spokane, and our crew and our partners at Krem and Rose Hours have been working very hard to adapt that so that it fits into the pandemic scenario. So normally we have hundreds of volunteers working at local Rose Hours stores to help, earn sponsorships. It costs $20 to sponsor one of those Thanksgiving meals. All of that is moving to either online, or there will still be in-store sales, but you won't be able to grab the bag. It'll be more like, scanning a flyer. So we're hoping the community will still step forward. We're still planning to do 11,000 turkeys and meals, but the biggest change this year is we're doing it at the Spokane County Fairgrounds, and it's going to be a drive-through distribution. So this is what is, our friends in the National Guard have been helping us, and our team's working really hard on this. We actually are expecting 8,500 cars to come through on one day.
Wow.
So we're going to start very, very early in the morning, and we hope by 6 a.m. that cars can drive through, and we're actually going to be going through buildings as we put the box with the turkey and all the fixings in their car. So we're doing a lot of logistics around that right now.
I was going to say, because how many volunteers does that take to be able to handle that? 8,500, meals.
It's still going to sound like a lot, but it's less than last year. I think we had about 800 volunteers involved in all aspects of the Thanksgiving distribution. This year it's going to be a little smaller because we have the National Guard, and we also have to be safe about the number of folks. So I think we're going to have maybe 200 involved in the distribution that day, working 2-hour shifts. And we're hoping that it's not snowy or icy or any of those things. So let's hope for good weather and that we can get all those folks helped out for a very important meal of the year.
Yeah, so that's one campaign. So we've seen that, I'm assuming, and so you can, let me know, that those normal campaigns that we see happen, those food drives that, like Gonzaga Prep, they always do their Thanksgiving food drive.
Yep.
Are those still happening, or are they having to adjust, and and those have kind of stopped with COVID?
It's been real uneven. In some cases, folks have told us that we're still doing the drive, we need boxes, when can we pick it up, and all those sorts of things. And others, folks aren't able to do them. And the other thing, we are getting an unusual number of government grants right now that are helping us do some important things. But Second Harvest is 85% funded by private individuals and local businesses and a few foundations, and the vast majority of that are individuals who make donations every year. So we really need to stay focused on earning the community's support, and it's, we're doing a lot more work than we've ever done, so that brings along some extra expenses and challenges. And we think we're going to be doing this for quite a while. If we look back to the Great Recession, it was actually 7 years before Second Harvest saw things get back to what we thought were pre-recession levels.
Interesting.
The economic recovery for lower income households just takes longer because they don't have as many assets to start with, and when they take a hit, and in this pandemic we know a lot of families took an unexpected hit to their income. So we expect that we're going to be doing this for years, and that those individuals and local businesses that support us will be more important than ever. So we're hoping to earn a lot of support this holiday season and through our annual fund, and hope that folks will be able to chip in a little bit.
Okay, very good. And so what are some of the community partners in our region that help you with your mission?
We have so many. In Spokane County, we have almost 100 what we call partner agencies. And those partner agencies are wonderful folks like Spokane Valley Partners, Salvation Army, Our Place, the Greenhouse in Deer Park, the Spangle Food Bank. Some of them are really big and some of them are small and humble, but they all have food as part of their mission. They're helping hungry people. And so in some cases, Second Harvest might be providing 70, 80, 90% of their food, and others maybe we're 20% of their food. But they're the ones who are feeding people on the front line in most cases. About 90% of the people we feed go to one of those agencies. So we're the food bank to the food banks to make sure that they're supplied. But we also have a lot of other kind of creative and innovative partnerships. We've done a lot with public schools in the last number of years. And we have over 100 schools and partnerships across our service area, but the majority of them are here in Spokane County. And one of the most important things we do is our Bite to Go program, where we get food to kids on the weekends. And of course, with schools being closed, that is, and you and I have talked about this has gotten more complicated, but also more important than ever. So one of the partnerships I'm really proud of right now, our friends at the Core came up with a few volunteers, and we've actually using some Spokane County grant money to fund a couple of trucks, and we are doing extra distributions at schools. A couple thousand families a week now are getting support that way, and that's making a huge difference.
So you mentioned the Karzak Money, allotted by Spokane County to Second Harvest. Can you give us a breakdown of how that money is being spent? And I can say, from our perspective as the commissioners, I mean, we felt it was very important to have food security be one of our number one issues. And so we saw, that back in June when you came to us and talked to us that, we got you money in June, September, and October, and now is totaling over just over $9 million. Yeah. So, I mean, I can say we're very proud to be working with you in conjunction to get this to the community, but, if you can talk about that a little bit.
Well, for sure, and obviously I want to thank all the commissioners for just taking that responsibility and that conversation around making sure that we're feeding folks in the community, and that's so critical right now. And we have a really clear plan for how to use those dollars to help the community, and really happy to report that 91% of that is just for buying food. That's the only thing those dollars are being used for. And it's been challenging because of the food supply chain issues, but we've managed to buy over 200 or almost 200 truckloads of food so far. And our plan is to get that out into the community through the end of the year, because we just see so much need. And the demand, as I mentioned, going from 2 million pounds a month to up to 6 million, just overwhelming amount of needs. So 91% focused just on buying those shelf-stable goods for the most part. We're actually able to buy some meat protein too that's frozen, and we found a place to store that temporarily. So that's an exciting, we're going to have some hams and turkey and also some ground beef for families, so that's exciting.
That is, because that's not normally something you get to do.
Not at all. So it's just such a gift in many ways, and we know it'll be such a help for families too. Make their dollars go further for other things. And then the other 9% of the dollars are really practical things like fuel, a few truck rentals, because we do have more fleet needs right now, some packaging, gloves, just things that we need to do the work. And the only thing that's a staffing cost is we are covering the cost of a couple of drivers through the end of the year. But the grant is just highly focused on making sure that we have the food to meet the need over the next several months.
And with that, it's one of the things is then, what are some of the things that a private citizen can do to help out those in need, with food in our region at this point in time?
Yeah, there's still lots of things that we need help with and can be done. Long before COVID, many people did food drives. You mentioned some that happened, whether it's Gonzaga Prep or an office food drive, or it's my favorite, the little kids that save their birthday money and come in and donate it. That's always sweet.
Yeah.
And certainly those things are all encouraged, and we still need those things. We have a lot of backyard gardeners in normal years. We didn't see as much of that this year, maybe because people were home more and they were using everything, which is fine. But everything from the bucket of zucchini that comes from somebody's backyard to gleaning on Green Bluff to the farmer who can donate a truckload of potatoes. There are just so many ways people can still do something. And we still are accepting volunteers. We have 20 volunteer shifts a week at our main warehouse. There aren't as many people in each volunteer shift, and they're spread out more than they used to be, but they're still doing a lot of work. And we still have 35 National Guard in our we have 45 National Guard in our Spokane facility right now, but they may not be there forever.
Right.
That's not unending. So we have to keep adapting and being prepared to recruit more volunteers as that changes, and that may be coming too. So that will be another way that folks can plug in and sign up and come volunteer.
Yeah, and then, with that, what are some of the things that we can do collectively as a community to help with food security and help Second Harvest?
We always encourage folks, there are lots of neighborhood pantries that have needs, and many of them rely heavily on volunteers. And so certainly encourage folks to, there are many volunteer websites. United Way has a great volunteer website where folks can sign up for needs. The neighborhood pantries are all listed on our website, and if you want to find out which one is near your neighborhood and whether they need help, we've heard from a number of them. A lot of their volunteers are older, and so because of COVID, they don't have as many of their regular volunteers, or folks are just concerned, and so they can't volunteer. And just last week, we started sending a few National Guard to one of our neighborhood pantries because they were running so low on volunteers they couldn't even operate correctly. So. And obviously, that's not something we can sustain forever.
Right.
So I think that volunteering at the neighborhood level is still really, really important, and it's something folks can do that's real hands-on and can still be very safe, but can make a difference in the community.
And with the National Guard, that is the governor's office that is allowing that to continue, correct?
Yeah. We're really grateful that they were called up fairly early in the response, and as we had a number of volunteers that couldn't come in, or we just didn't have the physical space to have as many volunteers, the Guard really became critical. And one example, before COVID, we would usually pack about, maybe a couple of thousand of food boxes a month for one small program. Well, one of the ways we needed to adapt in COVID is a lot of pantries, and in our mass distributions, they had to be drive-through because you couldn't have everybody coming into a pantry. So that meant we had to all of a sudden start building these pre-assembled boxes for distribution. Well, now we build thousands of those a day and fill entire semi-loads with pre-packed boxes. And the Guard, it's pretty amazing watching that crew when they're very productive.
Yes, no. So, as we know, CARES dollars are through the end of the year, and this pandemic is going to continue on. Yep. So what is your long-term strategy for Second Harvest as we look to next year?
Well, one of the most important things that we have to do at Second Harvest as the temporary, because that's mostly what they are, the temporary federal resources go away and we don't know whether there will be more behind them, it means that we have to go back to our donors and supporters in the food industry and ask them to be able to do more, and then to use our limited dollars to do some buying. But we don't have the resources to buy millions of dollars worth of food every month, so it's going to be very different. We have to time when those federally funded resources are, those are just low enough now that we need to start sourcing the other things and get them into our system, and that means we're going to have to remember how to repack potatoes quickly and bag apples and all those good things. I think it'll come back to us pretty quickly, but those are things that we're not doing right now because of this.
Yeah, no, it's trying times for everybody,
sure.
and we're all having to be strategic in how we're thinking and what we're looking at into 2021. So in the last few minutes, I just wanted to see if there's any other messages that you'd like to share with our audience.
Yeah, I think as we look forward, I think it kind of just picking up on the strategic question a bit. Before COVID, Second Harvest was really focused on nutrition education. We made that a major plank of our mission because we've come to believe that there's a strong connection between diet-related health issues, self-sufficiency, families living in poverty. It just feels like there's something we can do to help there. And so we really started to build on that 5 years ago. And we want to get back to that. It's really critical. We still feel like it's very important. But right now, you've been to our teaching kitchen. It's not open right now because it's not a giant space. So we're going to have to rethink that in 2021 and decide how we're going to do that. So I want people in the community to know that we still care about that. It's still important. We haven't given up on that. And the other big important thing that we've been working on is our Child Hunger Solution Center. And it was originally scheduled to be done last spring. And now it's going to look more like probably spring of 21. And it's just COVID-related construction delays and disruptions have really slowed that project. But that new facility is a 20,000 square foot warehouse that is really focused on making sure that kids are getting food on weekends and our other child hunger efforts. It's a big new volunteer space, which we really need because we can spread people out more, and that's going to be really important in 2021. So that's something we hope folks are still aware of, that we're still committed. It's just been slowed like some other things in the world, but we are very focused on that and hope that we can share news about that in the coming year with the community and have new volunteer opportunities, and that we are starting to figure out what reaching kids, especially hungry kids, looks like as this thing continues on.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. So Jason, I've enjoyed our discussion, and I think our viewers have too, but I'm afraid we've run out of time. So I would like to take this chance to thank my guest, Jason Clark from Second Harvest. As a reminder, a video of today's Spotlight can be accessed on our Spokane County homepage and our Spokane County YouTube channel. You can also listen on the go and download our Spokane County Spotlights as a podcast on the SoundCloud or iTunes apps. Just go to one of these apps and search for Spokane County. I'm County Commissioner Mary Kuney. Thank you for joining us today on the Spokane County Spotlight.